Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Hard Count podcast. Today we have another special guest. We have Evan into Sports. Welcome back.
Yep, I am back. I earned a second chance, I guess.
Yes, you did a good job.
That bad on the first pod. Hoping to not be that bad on the second one.
Okay, so today we're gonna be doing Week 15 NFL Pick'em. Okay, so do you want to get right into it, Evan?
Yup, first game.
Thursday night. By the time this is posted, it may have already happened, but we're still going to go over it briefly anyway. I have Baltimore winning. They're 17-point favorites. I have them winning 31-17.
Very close here. I have 31-16.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm higher on the Ravens than the Ravens fan. You know? Just classic Evan move here.
Okay, so the one thing that's interesting to watch, we had Lamar Jackson. He had suffered a quad injury last week against the Bills, and people are saying maybe they shouldn't play him. Maybe they should play RG3 instead. I don't think it's we don't really know too much. We don't know how good Lamar is feeling. And I think that if he just isn't feeling great, then they should sit him. But if he wants to play and he feels very good, then play him. What do you have to say, Evan?
Let me say this. They win this game by 14, whether he plays or whether he doesn't play. I don't think it makes a big difference. And if he's at less than 80%, they should sit him and start RG3, who can dominate this Jets defense. I do believe. I think that with the Ravens, there's so much great supporting system, supporting cast, coaching staff, offensive line, weapons offensively, a defense, a home field advantage. RG3 can start and win this game easily.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar, I think he just doesn't want to stop things in their tracks right now because they're rolling so much. So he's motivated.
But motivation is key.
But I mean, you said that the defense for the Jets is not. But I mean, they've had a top 2 defense in the rushing defense in the league over the course of the season.
Yep, number 2 rush DVOA, Football Outsiders.
Yeah, which is very impressive because if you asked me at the start of the year, Jets and Buccaneers is the number 1 and 2 rush defense in the league. No way. But I think it'll be interesting to see with Lamar Jackson probably going to have to pass more considering his injury, and the rush defense has been very solid. But what is interesting to me, I saw the Jets, they've played one top 10 rushing offense all year. That was the Dallas Cowboys, and they're the 10th best rushing team in the league, and they let up 140 yards on the ground that game. So we'll see. Maybe those stats are mostly just because of the poor rushing teams that they've faced all year.
We'll see tonight. Easy win by Baltimore at home Thursday night.
Hopefully.
And they will advance to 12-2?
12-2, yep. So I think that's all about all for that game. Let's move on to the Sunday games, which will be yet to happen by the time this is posted. Okay, so the first one is New England at Cincinnati, another just crapshoot, terrible game. But I have New England winning 27-16 and going into Cincinnati, finally getting a win. But yeah.
Well, we remain on task, on target. I have 26-16.
Oh, wow. Just 1 point.
So we're off by 2 points so far. This is a surprising start. We normally don't agree that much.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think it's like these 2 games, they're hard to disagree on. Just New England, Baltimore have been, well, especially Baltimore have been super dominant, but New England, they are struggling. And you thought that one loss was enough for New England to kick things back into gear. But as we all know, Kansas City came back and won last week, or didn't come back, but they came into New England and won. Which New England, you can say, was robbed, but they lost nonetheless. They snapped their home win streak, but now it's off 2 straight losses against a terrible team.
And the Ravens have not lost 3 straight since 2002.
Do you mean the Patriots?
Patriots. Yeah, not the Ravens.
Yeah, and I don't think that's going to happen here, especially against a bad team. Maybe if they were playing a good team, could happen, but against Cincinnati, I don't think there's much to say here.
Except for the... what do they call it? Spygate Part 2.
Oh, yeah, that was... my God.
I mean, did they really... I don't know if they were cheating. They probably weren't. But did they even need to try to cheat to beat the Bengals?
No.
Is that how desperate they are at this point?
No. I think it's just like... The only interesting thing for me in this game is how this Patriots offense is going to fare. Like, we've seen them really struggle these past couple weeks. They can't... Like... their defense can't just carry their offense, and it's just a bad dynamic on that offense all around. I think Brady's getting frustrated, and the weapons just aren't there for
Yep.
him. So
Brady under 40 quarterback rating, 4 straight games.
yeah, I saw an interesting thing also. Brady has the longest streak of any person or any quarterback with a passer rating of under 100 of 8 games. He has had a passer rating of under 100 for 8 games in a row. Second is Dwayne Haskins, who's had 7.
Wow. Brady, we know he's not the same at age 42.
Yeah.
He's not going to stand in the pocket and take a hit like he would a few years ago. We saw that on the final play against the Chiefs, where he kind of faded away when he threw the football to the end zone on 4th down, and Breeland breaks up the pass. We got New England winning comfortably.
Yes. Okay, let's move on to the next one. We have Tampa Bay at Detroit. This one could be interesting, but I have Tampa Bay winning 27 to 20.
Oh, I thought we were going to agree by or disagree by only a point again. I have 27-23.
Oh, that's
so
still pretty
3-point
close.
difference.
Yeah, I was considering putting it at 23, but I just look at how how much momentum this Tampa Bay team has right now. A lot of energy there, but yeah, what do you think?
Winston, slightly fractured hand. That's what worries me for this game.
Yeah,
I boosted up before we recorded. I boosted up the score a little bit. These over-unders at 48 and Tampa Bay. They turn the ball over and they score a lot. They throw it deep. Winston makes mistakes, but he also makes great throws. So I'm gonna have to pick the over here because it's Tampa Bay. David Blau. We'll see how he does versus a Tampa Bay secondary, which I don't think is good. I know
No.
you think they have a lot of energy.
yeah, I've liked somewhat what I've seen from them recently, but we'll see what happens here. Anybody's really been able to move the ball in this Tampa Bay team, not on the ground, but through the air. But yeah, we'll see. Jeff Driscoll, Matthew Stafford not going to play, so David Blau is going to be here.
First week he was pretty good. Last week not so much.
No.
And they want to lean on Bo Scarborough to win most of these games.
Yeah, no,
Because
I
the
have
star
liked-
back Carry-On is
Yeah.
out. We know that.
No, I have liked what I've seen from him. He's been able to get some extra yards here and there. So
But is he going to be able to get the extra yards versus number 1 ranked run defense, Football Outsiders DVOA, Tampa
I don't
Bay
think so.
Buccaneers?
I don't think so.
And I
So,
take over because David Blau is going to have to throw because they're not going to be able to run, and they're going to be behind. Winston's going to turn it over. And we'll see if Winston plays because a fractured hand, and I believe it's the throwing hand. Now,
Wow.
he finished the game last week. No Mike Evans for this game. That gives a slight downgrade, but Chris Godwin can still be a number 1 receiver,
Yeah.
especially against this bad Detroit defense.
yeah, terrible. So again, we have similar scores here: 27 to 20, 27 to 23. I think Tampa Bay wins this game relatively comfortably, unless David Blau can pull something magical. But yeah, I think that's about all for that game. Let's move on to Chicago at Green Bay, NFC North matchup here. This is critical for Chicago to win, and also critical for Green Bay to win to keep those, that bye week away from the Saints. So I have Green Bay winning this one, 26 to 23, at home. I know you like Packers by a lot in this one. What do you think?
I like them 28-20. So
Okay.
so far we're 4-4 on agreement. It's Aaron Rodgers versus Mitch Trubisky, and it's in Lambeau Field. I
Yeah.
think that pretty much summarizes this football game. Now we can say Trubisky's been better as of late. We can say Chicago has played better as of late. And the Packers, despite being, what are they, 10-3?
Yep.
If you look at point differential, yards per play, yards per game, etc., they're losing in a lot of those statistics to their opponents. But they're 10-3. They just find ways to win. Last week against Washington, not impressive. I think they overlooked the Redskins and Haskins coming into Lambeau. And I think they looked ahead at this game. And this is the game they're going to be focused for.
Yeah, I agree for the most part there, except for the fact that you were talking to Aaron Rodgers over Mitch Trubisky, and I know you said Mitch Trubisky, he has looked better, and Aaron Rodgers has looked worse. So we'll see about that. I don't know. Maybe they'll get back on track, but I just haven't loved what I've seen from this team. And then you were also talking about how the Bears struggled on the ground in the run game. That's where the Packers are very weak. We saw them get dominated by the 49ers a couple weeks ago, and they're number 2 rushing offense in the league right now. So I think it'll be interesting to watch, but I just think Chicago will come to an end here, especially going into Green Bay. If it was in Chicago, I think it might be a little bit of a different story. But yeah,
And also, Chicago gets back their key run stuffer, Akeem Hicks,
yes,
defensive tackle.
yes. So could be a long night for Aaron Jones. We'll see, but I don't know. I think it'll definitely be an interesting game to watch. A lot of playoff implications there. Will Saints move up to that 2 seed if they can win? We'll talk about that game later. And Chicago, they're trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. They're looking bleak right now, but it's technically still possible. So, is that all you got to say for that one?
That is all I have to say.
Okay, so let's move on to Houston at Tennessee. Now, Tennessee is arguably the hottest team in football right now, up there with the Ravens, I think, as the hottest team in football. Ryan Tannehill, 6-1 since he's been on this team, and I always was not a fan of Marcus Mariota, but I think we're just kind of seeing this team is a good team with all of that kind of being amplified with Ryan Tannehill being put in, and he's just been playing great these past couple weeks, and yeah, the defense has been good. I'm taking Tennessee to beat Houston here, 30-27. It could be a high-scoring game. I could see Houston, they're coming off a bad week against Denver. I could see them trying to bounce back, but I think they're just going to fall a little bit short against Tennessee. What do you think, Evan?
I also am taking Tennessee Titans here, 26-23, a little bit lower scoring, just because it's a divisional game.
I can see that.
That's the main reason. I will say this. Houston, I like to...
We have the same margin of victory, though.
Oh, we do. Okay. Well, a lot of agreement. Too much for my comfort. Houston's secondary at the beginning of the year played very poorly. But as of late,
Yeah,
healthier and played a lot better.
they have.
So it's going to be a little bit more tougher for Tannehill to get things going. A.J. Brown is developing into a number 1 receiver. We saw 2 touchdowns against
Yep.
Oakland, predicted here on the Hard Count podcast.
Yes, we did. Exactly. Go back and watch. We did predict 2 big touchdowns, 1 or 2 big touchdowns for A.J. Brown, and that happened. But he is emerging. I think he'll still have another big game because I don't think there's that number 1 shutdown corner on that Houston defense that's going to be able to do that. Just stop A.J. Brown like that. So, yeah, we'll have to see. That's why I have it a little bit higher scoring. And I think there's going to be some big plays down the field. Houston, big play potential. DeAndre Hopkins, who I think is one of the best receivers in the league. That'll be super interesting to watch against this Tennessee defense that has been really good. We've seen they were able to get some success on offense against the Patriots defense a couple weeks ago. So I think this game is in Tennessee's favor, but I could see Houston coming out on top.
And Tannehill, Tennessee has won 4 straight. In the last 3 games, Tannehill, over 85 quarterback rating, 2 of the 3 games. And now quarterback rating, the average is about 54 in that area. So it's not like passer rating where everyone's at like 125, This is out of 100. 2 out of the 3 last weeks, very impressive out of Tannehill.
Yes, I have liked what I've seen, but Houston, we never really know what we're going to get. Last week we saw bad performance. We see just kind of up and down with them. They'll have a bad week, a good offensive week, and then they'll just be terrible like we saw last week. So I don't know. I'm assuming we're going to get a Houston team that's a little bit pissed from last week, but yeah.
I think Houston is going to have the motivation here.
Yep.
Last week, embarrassed against Drew Lock in his second career start at home, just blown out. Game was over within 7 minutes.
Yeah, it was terrible.
And this week, going on the road to a division rival, and they could be in the wild card if they lose this football game. Right now, they lead the division due to tiebreaker with Tennessee, and if they lose, they would slide down quite a bit. So I think motivation favors Houston. Tennessee is kind of cruising, and it's a little bit easier to knock them off their flight if they're coming in hot, coming in confident.
But I don't think it's going to be enough to overcome that confidence from Tennessee right now. I think they're just playing too hot for this Houston team to come in. Another thing to note is that these 2 teams, they play this week, week 15, and then they play again week 17. So those are huge matchups to watch. I think this might be one of the best games of the week here. Really a lot of playoff implications. Are we going to see Houston going into the wild card spot, not going to be hosting a wild card game? could make a lot of difference because Tennessee is a scary team right now. I wouldn't want to see them in the playoffs, especially if they keep rolling like they are. Now they do play the Houston Texans, and then they play the Saints next week. But yeah, super excited to watch this game. Again, I have Tennessee winning 30-27, coming out by 3.
And I also have Tennessee by 3.
Yep. Okay, so I think that's about it for that game. Next game is Denver at Kansas City. Denver coming off a super big win against Houston, who we were just talking about last week. Drew Lock looked great. Defense looked great. I think it's a team that is much better than their record shows. Kind of revamped with this Drew Lock kind of quarterback on the fly situation. And I've really liked what I've seen from this team. But Kansas City just snapped New England's win streak at home. But there was a little bit of struggles there at the end defensively. So I think it was a tale of two halves for Kansas City. I was really liking what I saw from them, but then they give me some reason for concern. I have Denver losing this game. I have Kansas City winning 26-20 in their building. What do you have here, Evan?
I have 27-16. The line's somewhere at 10. So
Yeah.
you actually lean Denver on the line by a few points.
I do. I think Patrick Mahomes, we saw him a little bit injured last week, and they weren't able to have those. We didn't see too many big plays. Credit Belichick and that Patriots defense, but now we have Vic Fangio, another good defensive coach. So I think he's going to try and limit those defensive big plays also. And they had to scale back Andy Reid. They had to scale back with the Chiefs' big plays. I don't think it's going to be a shootout because that just doesn't happen with this Denver team. But I think right now that offense, Drew Lock has a lot of confidence going in this game. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if they got out to the lead early. But Kansas City is just a better team, so they're going to come back. They're going to rally. And that's what I think. So you have Denver scoring a little bit less, but that's my reasoning why I think they'll score more.
Yeah, I think Lock, third start in a very intimidating environment, Arrowhead Stadium.
Yes, it is.
After a really high, great game, great emotional game, I think they kind of come back to earth here and really get kind of flattened by Kansas City. Kansas City doesn't have a run game, though. And I always say, running backs don't matter. You can plug in anybody. At a certain point, it gets where you can't plug in anybody.
Yep.
And they just don't have an existing run game. It's all on Mahomes, per usual. But that's not always a bad thing.
Yeah, Mahomes is pretty good. I've really loved what I've seen from him. We all know he's talented, great player. And I think it's just Andy Reid, great coach, great, in Kansas City. I do like what I've seen from Denver, but I just like Kansas City more in this game. So is that about all for that game?
Yep, let's move on. I'm going to announce this one.
All right.
Because I do what I like.
Sure.
Dolphins at Giants.
Yeah, just terrible game.
Two terrible teams. This is basically a battle for number one pick, or a chance at number one pick.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Dolphins 24-23. Where are you going, Spencer?
I don't hate it, but I'm going to go the other way. I'm taking Giants 20-17 in this game. And I'm taking low scoring. I think it's going to be, we've seen the Dolphins, I think they scored like 21 points of 7 field goals.
Yep.
And I expect this Giants team to put up touchdowns. We saw them, Eli Manning had his moments in this first half of the Eagles game, but it just kind of went downhill from there. But this Miami team, if that happens again, which I don't know, it probably won't, they're not going to be able to rally like the Eagles did. It's I think both these teams just a tale of struggles. I think it could go either way, just depending on who kind of gets their spark lit. And I don't know. What do you think, Evan?
Well, Eli Manning is probably going to start in my estimation.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones still could, but unlikely.
Yeah, and I think the fact that this could be Eli Manning's last start of his career could be a little bit of a motivation factor for him. But yeah.
Yeah, and for what are they called? Dolphins. Devontae Parker, concussion. And I think one of the other receivers, Albert Wilson, also in concussion protocol. We'll see if they both play because they're running short on receivers. Their number one would be Allen Hurns.
Yeah, not great there.
And also Devontae Parker, please play for my fantasy team.
Yeah, you beat me in fantasy last week, unfortunately. Got lucky there.
Yeah, Jeffrey got hurt.
Yeah, and Watson and Hopkins in the last like 5 minutes of that game.
Garbage time.
Yep. But okay, I think that's all about that game. It's just a bad game. One NFC, one AFC teams that are just fighting for that number one overall pick with the Bengals. So yeah, let's move on to a game here. NFC East. They're terrible. Division's awful. We saw Philadelphia really struggle with the team that we just were talking about, the Giants, last week. They were down 17-3 at one point. They did rally, and I think it was a little bit of a momentum swinger for them. I'm taking them to win in Washington, who gave Green Bay a little bit more of a run for their money than they thought it would be. But I'm taking Philadelphia to win here by 9, 26-17 in Washington.
Wow, okay. We agree on the winner, but
Yes.
we disagree on the points.
Yes.
I have 20-17 Philadelphia,
Yeah.
and I think it's close. Washington at home. And I used to be into the narrative that Philadelphia, when they have their backs against the wall, that's when they're going to finally pull through. But we've seen multiple times their backs have been against the wall, and they have shrunk.
Yep.
Now, lack of skilled position players. Last week, at the end of the game, they had one healthy wide receiver, and I think last year in college, he played quarterback.
That's funny, yeah.
But, just so many injuries offensively.
Yes, there are, but it's like, just look at these. I mean, you still have Carson Wentz. He's good, but he hasn't been great. I have predicted that Carson Wentz will play very well. The whole Eagles team will kind of rally around him for these past couple weeks. That underdog mentality that you were just talking about. And I think we've kind of forgotten about that.
Well, I sold it after watching them play the Giants.
Yep, I can see that. But what I think right now, this is when Carson Wentz has to show up. People are doubting them. I think, especially after that Giants game, now we're just kind of putting in the Eagles in just the bottom, like just a trash team. But those underdog games, those were Nick Foles, and I think this is like Carson Wentz's time to kind of prove that he is Philly's quarterback. We saw, okay, Nick Foles can do it. He took you to a Super Bowl. He won a couple playoff games. And I think people are saying, Carson Wentz heard it. Now people are saying, Nick Foles, that's just what Philly needs. And I think now is his opportunity to show that he can take this team to the playoffs. He's going to show up. Might not be a pretty game, but he's going to get the win. And we do have the same total for Washington, but I have Philly scoring an extra 6 points.
And how concerned are you about Doug Peterson, Philadelphia head coach? Is he on the hot seat?
I definitely think he is on the hot seat.
Wow, definitely think he is.
Not definitely in that mean. I think that he is potentially up in the air there. We'll see how Philly closes out this season because it could be interesting. As I just said, it's Carson Wentz. It's that whole organization's time to finally show that it's Philly's quarterback. This is what we've been looking for all year from them. We really expected bigger things, and that's what we've seen. All the quarterbacks that are on the hot seat, those who we expected bigger things from, and just disappointed. But if they can kind of rally around Carson Wentz, get some momentum going, as I predict they will, I don't think he will be. We've seen some great moments from him in the past, and there were points where we're considering him one of the better coaches in the NFL. So I think it's a little bit foolish at this point to just jump to conclusions. Now we'll have to see how these last 3 weeks unfold, because that could tell a big story in whether or not he's going to be able to continue this franchise. Because if they fall apart, it shows that he's not going to be able to handle duress and under big circumstances. So what do you think on that?
I think Doug Peterson is a good coach, but I think the seat is getting a little bit warmer.
Yep.
Just toasty. We're not talking about burning hot.
Exactly what I think.
Yeah. Also, Philadelphia, number 8 in DVOA rush defense. What does Washington want to do? They want to grind it out with Adrian Peterson.
So Darius Geis.
Yeah, Geis is out for the season. Another MCL, ACL injury, sprained MCL, I think it was. Luckily, not a tear.
Yep.
Just can't stay healthy. It's disappointing. But that matchup advantage goes to Philly. But Washington, whether they have success on the ground, they're just going to keep running because Bill Callahan doesn't care if they gain yards. He just cares about how much times they run the ball.
Yeah.
One time he said in a quote, "The winner is the person who has the most run attempts."
Okay. Well, maybe that's why they're 2-10 or something like that. But yeah. So Seattle at Carolina is our next game.
I'm going to take Seattle 27-17. Carolina,
Okay.
after firing Rivera,
Agreement.
I think they've kind of given up. Last year we
Yes,
saw them lay
me
an
too.
egg. I mean, last week. I think it was
40
to
to 20, yeah.
against Atlanta. Just an embarrassing performance
Terrible.
against a crummy team.
Yep. Division too.
So they've given up on the season, and that lack of motivation. At this point of the year, there's so many teams that aren't playing for anything.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about a couple of them in a moment, actually. But so I have Seattle very similar. You have Seattle 27-17. I have 24-17. We have agreed on a lot this video.
We haven't had a disagreement on a pick so far.
I think
That's going to change.
that will change. Hopefully it does.
Actually, I don't have one of my super upsets this week.
I don't either. Last week it was Buffalo, didn't work out. Never bet against the Ravens, but so I think, as you said, Ron Rivera, the Panthers, they've kind of given up after firing Ron Rivera, and it wasn't like one of those coaches where, because he had been to some Super Bowls, I had heard, a lot of people thought that of him as a father figure, and people liked him, and it wasn't like it was just a struggle with him. People were getting frustrated because that wasn't the case. I think it was a dumb decision. It was an irrational decision. It was just an impulsive, bad choice because the players, that's what they're clinging on to, their coach. And then when it's just abrupt, that's when an organization falls, especially at such a random time. Because it's not like Ron Rivera, it's just unacceptable for this organization. It really tells me a lot about like where they're headed. I don't love the move whatsoever.
So you think it's unacceptable for them to fire Rivera?
I think so.
Wow, someone clip out that soundbite. I think Rivera's a great head coach.
I do too.
I think he's borderline top 10 in the league. And like you said, he builds a great connection with his players.
Yep, which
And I
is
think that's such an
hugely
important
important.
Yeah, but I think he's only had 3 winning seasons in Carolina. And they were at a point where they weren't going to the playoffs consistently, and there wasn't a lot of positive momentum to the future. Well, I think I'm fine with them firing Rivera. I think it's time for a new face, but he's going to get a head coaching job immediately. Cleveland, New York, Dallas, wherever.
Yeah.
And he's a great head coach, like I said. But I feel like it was kind of time for them to blow it up. Cam's going to be gone. Rivera's going to be gone. New era.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with the new era part. New era, 8, Lamar Jackson. But my reasoning that I really don't like this is because it was just such a random time. It was such a random time in the season. Like, it just came too abruptly, in my opinion. Like, I really would have loved, just over the offseason, it was kind of a thing that was gradual, and they got rid of him because he had done some good things for Carolina.
Well, I think it's advantage Carolina and advantage Rivera. Because Rivera gets to stick his hand into the water, new phrase made up right here, in the head coaching search.
Yeah.
Giants, Dallas, Cleveland. Now they know Rivera's on the table, and now he's an option for them.
Yes.
So I think it's a slight service to him. And for Carolina, they get to stick their foot in the water in terms of coaching hires.
Yeah, but I think this organization knew they were going to fire him, but I think it was just too much for the moment. I don't think it was a good move because of that. And now look at what's happening with them. They're just kind of just going off the rails, literally just falling off, just playing terrible.
Yeah, but I don't think there was anything left to play for this season.
I know, but you never want your team to just go out there and just have nothing to play for. It doesn't matter how bad you are. And so I just didn't like the move. I can see some reasoning for it, but I just wasn't a fan of it.
That's fair. So we're both going to take Russell Wilson against Kyle Allen.
Yeah.
Even though it's on the road, Carolina's given up on the season.
I mean, Seattle has been very good on the road.
Yeah, surprising. Because normally they're an elite home team because of that 12th man, whatever they call it.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's about it for that game. We similar scores. We both have Carolina scoring 17. So yeah. Now let's move on to another team that is kind of playing for nothing, and that is Jacksonville at Oakland, Oakland was just obliterated by Tennessee. Both these teams in the past couple weeks were obliterated by Tennessee. But yeah. So I have Oakland winning this game at home. The Black Hole, 27-20. What do you think, Evan?
I have 30-21 Oakland. I
Okay.
talk about motivation a lot on this podcast because at this point, like I said earlier, teams are either playing for something or they're playing for nothing.
Yep.
And if they're playing for nothing, they're not focused and they're not motivated. And
Yep.
you'll say, well, Oakland's out of the playoff picture. They're not playing for anything. This is the last home game in Oakland before they move. And this is it's pretty historic home field just in terms of the city, the connection to the team from the fan base.
Yep.
So I think they're playing for a lot here, actually.
Yeah.
And Jacksonville, they've rolled over. They know Doug Marrone's not their head coach next year. They're not focused on putting anything great on film for Doug Marrone because they know he's not going to be there. And they've given up on him because, frankly, he's done a bad job. This is a discombobulated locker room, and they're playing for nothing.
Yeah. Out of all those teams that we're talking about with no, just I think Jacksonville has the worst case of it. They're just going out there, not doing much at all. I thought Gardner Minshew being put in might do something, but it didn't. It just didn't pick them up whatsoever. So it's just Oakland, as you said, last home game. The black pit, the black hole. It's Oakland. It's kind of an identity, and I think they're going to want to leave strong. It's a talented team, young talented team. And I think they're going to go out there and perform against Jacksonville, and they're going to win 27-20 again. I could see it being higher scoring, like you said, but I don't think Jacksonville is going to put up 3 touchdowns on Oakland.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs probably going to be back for Oakland. And this is the 31st rush defense in Jacksonville DVOA.
Yep, so Josh Jacobs could feast. He has been feasting all year.
Yep. And even if he doesn't, DeAndre Washington will be perfectly fine.
Yep. We talk about replaceable running backs. I mean, Josh Jacobs is very special.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs is in that top 5 conversation for me.
Yes, for me too. But I don't know. I like Oakland this one again. 27-20.
We both like Oakland. We've agreed on every pick. This feels weird.
Yes, it has. Okay, so let's move on to a game that we might disagree on. Cleveland at Arizona. Cleveland, another team with their coach on the hot seat. We're going through a bunch of them right now. But they are just underperforming expectations a lot so far this year. Arizona, I'm done with them. They've just been... I think we're hanging on too much to the fact that they hang in games, but the thing that we're just kind of disregarding is that they just can't win those games. Because we look at, they lost to San Francisco by 3. They hang in most games, but they just can't win those games. And it doesn't matter if you hang in the games, if you can't win them. So at this point, I was hanging on Arizona for a while. I was really liking them, but now I think it's just time to just abandon ship. But the same kind of goes for Cleveland also. I just don't like betting for Cleveland or against Cleveland because they just, any given week, can perform very well or very terribly. So, yeah, I have Cleveland winning this game 22-20. I just think it's not going to be, I think it's just going to be an average game played for both teams.
I have a little bit higher scoring. I'm going to take Cleveland. Arizona just has been disappointing the last few weeks. Getting blown out by the Rams.
Definitely.
Losing to Pittsburgh. Not putting up a lot of points in that game. And Cleveland, although they've been bad, they've covered in their last 3 or 4 games. Now they're favorite. Covering means they win. And I'll take them 26-24. I think I said that already. Higher scoring because the offenses can play. Kyler Murray and Arizona, they can put up points, not at a huge rate, but they're a solid offense. And Cleveland, you don't have to be good offense. You play Arizona Cardinals defense. And that's what it's about. Cardinals are absolutely atrocious on defense. Let me pull up the DVOA here. Cardinals, defensive DVOA, they are at 28th. Not good.
Yeah, it's just these two teams are just very disappointing teams. I have a lower scoring because of these teams just going back again to teams that don't have much to play for. I don't think either of these teams just have much to play for. Obviously, Arizona, they have their young guys, and I think they do have things to play for, but they're just not playing for them. So I expect that to remain the same, and just lower scoring, not a struggle game, but it's just not going to be a good one either for either team. And yeah.
Headline here: Oklahoma Heisman winners Murray, Mayfield. You
Oh,
see them against each other
I
for
didn't
the
think
first time
about
in
it.
their careers.
Yeah, interesting. So,
And actually, Murray was quoted like saying something like, "I'm going to butcher this a little bit, but I wouldn't do the things that he's done." Murray says, Baker was a good leader.
yep,
back
taking
in
a
the day,
shot at
but
him.
it was kind of a shot, but not really intended as a shot. We know Baker's kind of been a little bit whack in Cleveland in terms of just off the field. It's kind of who he is.
Yeah, that's why I'm not a fan of him. But again, it's just 22-20 for me. You had 26-24, is that right?
Yep.
So we have the same amount of point differential. Wow, we are agreeing on a lot.
This is scary.
um, so then we move on to the next game. We're Minnesota at Chargers. Minnesota, they're right now trying to hold on to that wild card spot, holding off the Rams here. And they're playing a Chargers team who's finally getting hot. I know you love this team. I do as well. Super talented team. Finally got Derwin James back. I don't know. I'm taking Minnesota, but I think it might be closer than many people think. I have Minnesota winning 24-23 in this one.
Scary again. I have 28-26, a little bit higher scoring because I know the over-under is low. Minnesota, we think of them as a great defense. Well, guess what?
Yes.
They can't cover any kind of throwing. Xavier Rhodes.
Rhodes.
Xavier Woods. He's on the Cowboys. But he's been bad. He used to be a lockdown, shutdown, elite top corner. Trey Wayne's on the other side. He's okay, but he can't really tackle or anything. And Chargers, I'm going to say this, they're a good team. Now, they don't win games, but every game's close, and they find ways to lose. I mean, they just invent new ways to lose football games.
Yeah, that's why I kind of bailed on Arizona. Chargers, not quite the same because I think they're just a more talented team, but at a certain point you got to say what's going on, Like you can't just lose every game.
I'm picking them to lose for only the second time this season.
Yes, you are.
Now, I reserve my right to change if I want to in the Google Doc.
Yes, you do, and the one game that you picked against them, they did win.
Yeah, so I have picked them. So basically, if they were as good as I thought they were, they would be
11-1
no
or 12-1.
12-1, and
Yep.
they're 5-8.
That's awful. Yeah. So I think Minnesota, they just have more to play for at this point. Chargers were eliminated from the playoffs last week, and they're with that super competitive NFC right now. They have Packers in that division. The Vikings aren't out of it yet. They play the Packers next week. So I think it's just a team of. I think this game is more motivation, as we were talking about, and that's why I like the Vikings this one to win by one, closer than some people may think.
Yeah, I'm going to use an RJ Bell term here. He's
Okay.
a Vegas better. The Chargers last week had their dream crusher. Their goal at the beginning of the season was to make the playoffs and actually go further. And last week they just got eliminated from playoff contention.
Yep.
So their dreams are over, and this is the week where they're not playing for anything.
Yeah.
So we'll see how they respond with that.
Yeah, but I think now, because we haven't seen a team all year with much motivation. I mean, obviously, it's just been a struggle. So now that they've just had their one thing that they were motivated for taken away from them, it's like, what are we gonna see? I mean, they did come off
Yeah, they
win.
won 45-10.
Yeah, they were eliminated, but we'll see. I think some of that momentum was killed by them being eliminated from the playoffs. So yeah, I think we agree on that game, right?
Yep.
So then we're gonna move on to the next game. Rams at Dallas. It's two teams that are heading in opposite directions right now. We have Rams who are kind of thinking, oh, hello, Rams. Nice of you to show up. And Dallas, like, oh, well, where Dallas never showed up. But I have Rams winning this game, 28-21.
28. Okay, I have it closer, but I lean Rams. 27-24, going to Jerry World and win this game.
Yep.
Because Dallas, this game, even though they're in the playoff picture and they need to continue to win the NFC East, this game doesn't actually mean a lot to them. Because the NFC East is going to come down to next week when Dallas visits Philadelphia. And if you look at the playoff percentages and all that, even if Dallas loses this game, it doesn't really affect their chances by much. It's kind of surprising, but it's a thing.
But it wouldn't hurt just trying to get some momentum in because especially with the Eagles playing the Redskins this week, probably a win for them.
Yeah, but Dallas has Washington last week, so they have a free win.
Yes, but the Eagles do have the Giants last week also. So
yeah, but even if Dallas loses and Philly wins this week, but Dallas beats the Eagles, Dallas is going to win the division. It's weird. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but it does at the same time. And Rams need this game. They're chasing the Vikings in the playoff picture. Vikings play Chargers, as we just said, and they're probably going to get a win. So Rams really do need this game to stay alive. They have the momentum. They beat up on Seattle last week. And Goff away from home is a little bit worse. And we saw the last game for Dallas. They just got embarrassed by Chicago on national TV primetime on the Thursday night window. Now that does give them 4 days extra rest, but there's a lot of controversy going on with them. And even though Dak is going to put up a lot of numbers and they're going to have a lot of yards, high yards per play, they just don't win games. They're 6-7 on the season. They have a losing record. And with they've only been underdogs in 2 games. With the roster that they have, 7 losses, just disappointing.
Yeah, terrible. So I'm looking at it, and the Eagles, if they win both games and the Cowboys beat them, they have a 14% chance of making the playoffs. I don't know what that entails, but
basically, Eagles have to beat Cowboys to make playoffs. So Cowboys, all they have to do is beat Eagles to make playoffs.
No, if the Cowboys lose out, if they lose this game against the Rams,
yeah, but that would mean they lose against Philly. It's basically going to come down to that game.
No. If the Cowboys beat the Eagles, then they lose to the Rams and then lose to the Redskins week 17, and the Eagles will make the playoffs.
But they're not losing to Redskins.
You never know.
No. I do know. Redskins, nope.
Okay.
Cowboys are just so far better talented, and they don't even have a coaching disadvantage.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think that...
Yeah, there's obviously a chance, dart throw, but we're talking reality here. They're not losing to Washington.
I mean, that's what we've said all year, though.
And they've really killed the bad teams, and they've got just destroyed by the good teams.
Yes,
Haven't beat a team over 500.
I mean, we did say that earlier, though, and look what happened against the Jets. So, could be another tale of that. I don't think so, but I agree that the division will most likely come down to the Eagles Cowboys game, which will be super fun to watch next week.
Fun but ugly.
Yeah. So again, I have Rams winning 28-21, just because they're rolling right now, just obliterating Seattle last week.
Agreement there. We only have 3 games left, and we've agreed on all of them.
No, I remembered we had disagreement on the Giants-Miami game.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, but that game's a toss-up for me. So, but then the next game, Atlanta and San Francisco. I don't think we're going to disagree on this one either. San Francisco, I think, is the second best team in the league right now. They just had
I disagree. I'm going to take Atlanta 45-7 over San Francisco. I know it's on the road. Yeah, I'm kidding.
Okay, I was going to say. I'm taking 49ers 31-17.
I'm taking 28-14.
Okay, so just 3 points down for each team.
3 points each way, yep.
So, yeah, I think that it's just like how can you pick against San Francisco at this point against Atlanta? Like, there's no real reason that Atlanta has to come in here and beat San Francisco. Like, sure, they might want to play spoiler,
Yeah,
but
no motivation.
just, yeah, it's bad. San Francisco, they're wanting to hang on to that one seed right now. It's similar situation to the Ravens. It's their motivation is to keep the one seed, and I think they're going to do that right now against a team that they are definitely better than and should beat.
Yeah, agreement here. Garoppolo, very good game against New Orleans.
Huge game.
A lot of that was a New Orleans problem defensively, but a lot of that was Garoppolo being good. And we know he has weapons: Kittle, Sanders, Samuel. A lot of weapons on offense. Mostert emerging as the number one lead back for San Francisco.
Yeah, I saw that. Super interesting.
He's really good as well. And Atlanta, just not a lot to play for. Dan Quinn's going to be out the door after the season. So
Yeah.
and
So
when you have a coach that's about to, that you know is going to be gone next season, you kind of stop building and trying to build a strong impression on him. You kind of a little bit less focus.
yep, definitely
because-
less focus.
So really not a lot to talk about here. We know San Francisco is going to steamroll them, and I'd be shocked if Atlanta won the game.
Yeah, I would as well. Not much to talk about there. Let's move on to a game that was actually Flex's Sunday night game, and I think deservingly so, rightfully so. Two AFC teams right now that are competing for those wild card spots, and one of them is 8-5 Pittsburgh, and one of them is 9-4 Buffalo. Buffalo coming off a loss last week to the Ravens, who, I mean, you can't really blame them for that because nobody's been able to take down the Ravens recently, but I think they did a decent job. It's terrible conditions, but Josh Allen was a little bit concerning in that game for me. I don't think he played terribly because the Ravens defense has been very good recently, but we'll have to see how that happens right now in Pittsburgh. I expect a low scoring game in Pittsburgh, so that's why I give Pittsburgh the edge here. I'm having them win by 17-16, super low scoring.
I'm taking Pittsburgh to win by 3, 20-17. Also low scoring. Over under is very low. I don't know
Yeah,
exactly what it
I
is.
believe it's 36.5.
So I take over by a half point.
Yes, and I take under by 3.5.
And Pittsburgh, the reason I'm giving them the win is because they're at home.
Yep, me
And their
too.
home field is very valuable.
Yeah, Heinz Field, and it's just right now, I think they've won 7 out of their last 8 games, so they've really been on a roll. I just love Mike Tom. Well, I don't like him as a person, but I just love him
You
as
don't
a
like him as a person?
No. Ravens.
Oh, so just because of that.
No. He's tried to trip players and stuff like that. No. Have you not seen that?
Yeah, no, yeah, they got fine draft picks.
Yeah.
Jacoby Jones back in the day. But coach of the year candidate.
Yeah, he's been great. You know, it just looked like all things were like it was just Mayday for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But, I mean, they pulled it together. Delvin Hodges has looked not killing the Steelers. So,
Yeah, and that's what Tomlin said.
Yep.
He said, why did you go with Hodges? Because he's not killing us.
yep, and Mason Rudolph was indeed killing him. So, yeah, it's just low-scoring game. Two teams that are struggling offensively but very good defensively.
Yeah, and Allen, unimpressive last week.
Definitely.
And I was gaining hope for him. That's why I picked the Bills last week to beat the Ravens. Because they were at home, and Allen played very well on the Thursday night before.
But that's
Extra
what the
days of
Ravens.
rest.
That's what the Ravens do to you.
My process seemed sound at the time, but just underperform. If Allen played better, they could have won the game. But he didn't, and they did not win that game.
Yep, that's exactly right. And I think they're going to lose this game again. And that would be interesting to see how it shakes up the playoff picture, especially with that Tennessee-Houston game. So big week for that AFC playoff picture. You have 4 teams right now that are all borderline wild card teams that are matching up. So we could see a lot change in that playoff race right now. Now, perfect transition. Let's go to a team that's kind of been eliminated from that AFC playoff picture.
Yeah, the Indianapolis Colts.
yeah.
Beginning of the season, when Andrew Luck did not retire before this, I had this as my Super Bowl matchup.
Yeah, I know.
I was really high on Indy going into the year. Then when Luck retired, I kind of backed off them. And then when they started really well with Brissett at the beginning of the season, I was like, ooh, Indy. They're not going to win the Super Bowl, but they're going to be playoff contender.
Yeah.
Okay, playoff
Low
team.
ceiling.
low ceiling, like you said, and like you've been saying for the last few weeks.
Yeah.
My key to the game: see if you can see me in the crowd, at the Superdome, and I'm gonna take New Orleans 30-20 in this game.
I'm going a little bit closer. I'm gonna take Indianapolis to lose 27-23. So New Orleans to win 27-23. I think it's gonna be a little closer than you said, just because I think New Orleans is coming off a loss, and I think it's like Indianapolis likes to keep games like within reach, especially like when they're playing well, and I expect them to come out with some energy here this game. I think they're going to come in and put up a little bit of a fight, but I think New Orleans is just a better team all around, just way better offensively, just Jacoby Brissett, and again, going back to the fact that I say it's low ceiling, and I think they've just proved me more right over these past couple of weeks. They've struggled. So, yeah, again, Indianapolis at New Orleans 27.
And wait, what? Yeah, okay. I forgot what I was gonna say, but basically, Indianapolis, like I said, the dream crusher, because last week, basically, their playoff chances are unlikely at this point. So
Extremely unlikely. I'll check real quick.
yeah, go check these playoff points or playoff percent chances. Losing my brain at the end of the podcast.
Yeah. It's been a long one.
Yeah, it has. We know Michael Thomas is going to get his 100 yards. Drew Brees in the Dome, Monday Night Football. Last home game in the regular season. And, yeah, Drew Brees. Monday Night Football. I could pull up the official stats. But it's something like 350 yards per game. Let me check it right here. We're both looking up things. Okay.
Yeah, we
Drew
are.
Brees. Monday Night Football. 349.5 yards per game. 39-6 touchdown interception ratio in his last 12 games on Monday Night Football.
Wow. So I found it, and the Colts have a 1% chance of making the playoffs.
Yeah. So the Dream Crusher and New Orleans, I almost called them New England. They're going to try to bounce back after a tough, heartbreaking loss.
If they win out, they have a 20% chance. So.
Oh yeah. Also, what was your score again?
My score was 23-27. New Orleans wins.
So you should make this a best bet then.
But I'm not extremely confident in this score, and I'm not extremely confident in the Colts winning this game or staying, because I think that I think this is what's going to happen, but it's not something I'm extremely confident in.
That's interesting, because the Dome is worth 3.5 or 4, probably 3.5. So you're basically saying that these teams are neutral, or even on neutral field. Do you think that, or is there some kind of external factor going on into this pick?
Well, as I said, I think it's just similar. Just last week, Saints coming off a loss, and right now, they had a very high offensive game, and I like the Colts defense. I think it's good, not great, it's good, but I just think that the offense is going to come down to a little bit to earth here. The Colts offense is going to come a little bit up to expectations a little bit, step up a little bit in this bigger game, because I think they're just feeling a little bit discounted at this point. And
so you think that Dream Crusher could potentially work in a positive direction?
I think so, because now they've been playing extremely well. Or no, not extremely well. Sorry. I'm like losing my head as well.
Yeah, and I'm doing these intense questioning, hypotheticals here.
Yeah.
I know you don't like this.
So hold on. Here's what would need to happen for the Colts to make the playoffs. So week 15, this upcoming week, the Titans would need to beat the Texans. The Cardinals would need to beat the Browns. The Jaguars would need to beat the Raiders. The Bills would need to beat the Steelers. And the Colts would need to win. Then the following week after that, the Buccaneers would need to beat the Texans. The Colts would need to beat the Panthers. The Jets would need to beat the Steelers. The Saints would need to beat the Titans. The week after that, if the Ravens win and the Colts win, then they make the playoffs.
That sounds like less than a 1% chance to me.
I mean, because if you think about it like this, Titans have to beat the Texans, right? So
Okay.
it's possible.
Reasonable.
Cardinals could beat the Browns.
Reasonable.
Jaguars,
Underdogs.
Raiders. Ooh,
Jaguars have to win?
yep.
No. That's where
Bills.
yeah.
Well, if they don't, let's see what happens. If they don't, they'd have a 94% chance. Let's see what happen. Oh, if the Chargers. Okay, so let's try and make the most reasonable scenario. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's about it. The podcast.
Okay.
Thanks for listening. If you made it this far.
If you made it this far, comment.
Yeah, good idea.
No, comment a specific word. You make it up.
Comment. New Era 8.
New Era 8. NEW space ERA space 8.
And
The
we'll
number.
know. And we'll thank you for listening. And yeah, thanks for listening.
Yep. Thank you for listening. This is the Hard Count Instagram. Go
This
follow
is
that.
Into Sports. Thank you so much for coming, Evan.
Anytime.
All right.
Yeah.
Peace.
Well, I mean, we're just kind of going crazy up here.
Yeah.
55 minutes in, losing our brains.
Okay.
Anyway, we're out. Peace.
All right. Peace.